Hello family, my name is Chris, I am your home gamer dad, and it is a great time to be a Megaman fan, specifically if you are a fan of the Battle Network series. The Legacy Collection was just released. I will be picking that up for myself very soon. Can't wait to play it, and figured this was the perfect time to take a look back at one of the earlier entries to the series. So, grab your battle chips, heal your navies, and as you run around the net, always remember that no matter where you go, what you do, what mystery data you pick up, when playing Mega Man Battle Network 2, your mileage may vary. Now, there are several reasons why I am skipping Battle Network 1 for this, but the main one is because I didn't play it until way later in the series. Pretty sure it wasn't until after Battle Network 4 when I finally played the first one. But in any case, even though there are many memories that are linked in here to all the Battle Network series, this is actually the second Let's Play that I ever did on my Let's Play channel, which you can always check that out. You're going to see the footage down here, and there's going to be a description down below. And then among other things, where Battle Network 2 was either the first or my first impressions or something along that ways that make it stand out a little bit more compared to all the other ones. Now, I love all the entries of the Battle Network series, and I'll probably talk about them throughout the course of this video, but Battle Network 2 will be the main focus. Now then, ready? Top 5 routine set. Execute. Number 1, this was my first entry into the Battle Network series. So yeah, as I said, this was my hopping point into Mega Man Battle Network. When I found out about the series, it was, I want to say, a few months before Battle Network 3 was going to be released, and something about it was like, well, they made a third one, so that means these first two have got to have some merit to them in order to justify continuing to make the series. And then this is at the time when I was working at, oh boy, who remembers this? I was a manager at KB Toys, just a very small toy company at the time, and my friend Paul, who I've mentioned many times throughout my videos, that's actually where I first met him and whatnot, and he told me about the series and introduced it to me by showing me, you know, what he has played and everything like that. And before Battle Network 3 came out, I decided, all right, I'm going to go ahead and give this a shot. And I am so glad I did. Now, when you first play a Battle Network game, you can't go into it thinking it's a Mega Man game, because it's not. It is very different. Side-scrolling, jump and shooting, the variable weapon system. These are things that are from the classic and X-Mega Man series that really don't exist in the Battle Network game. And even at the time Mega Man Legends was out, and that was more of a 3D exploration style game, which had its very things that, you know, were very different from the original. So Battle Network itself is quite different. It's more of an action RPG style game, very light RPG elements, but it's still there. And you are on a 3x3 grid. Well, you're on your 3x3 grid. The enemies are on their own 3x3 grid, and you are moving around the board in order to be able to defeat or bust, as they say, the various viruses and other net navis that you are going up against as you play the game. And in order to do that, you have your Mega Buster, which of course your Mega Man, that's something you will always have. And then you'll also have battle chips that you give to Mega Man, which are special abilities and powers and attacks that you acquire from the other enemies. So in a sense, even though you're not absorbing the powers and using them and changing your colors and things along that way, like you would expect from a classic game, you are still doing that same function in Battle Network, just on a little bit of a different scale. Now, yes, in this game, you do change colors and everything, but that's something I'll be talking about a little bit later. Overall, when I started playing this game, it hooked me immediately. The characters were absolutely amazing, and they interacted with each other so well. The story, even though it's pretty basic, had some pretty cool moments to it that just stick out into your head as like, wow, I didn't expect that to come. And then, of course, taking all of the things that you used to know from the classic series, the way the Robot Masters used to look, Mega Man's look, you know, roll, things along that ways, and reimagining it into this world where instead of things going off in a robotics path, it went off branching into the network and net navigation and things along that way. So as the first entry to the game, it was absolutely amazing, and I'm glad that I took that journey. Number 2, gotta collect them all, battle chips. Pokemon. Pokemon is a super giant in the video game world. Everybody has heard of Pokemon. You've seen it, you've experienced it. It has invaded your life in some way, shape, or form, regardless of whatever you think. But at the time when Battle Network 1 came out, and then of course Battle Network 2 and stuff like that, it was a big kind of gimmick of sorts of collecting as many things as you can, big collectathons and everything, trading with your friends, and trying to get everything that the game has. And in the Battle Network series, that falls under battle chips. As mentioned before, the battle chips are your main ways of attacking, besides your Mega Buster. Every enemy you fight in the game will generally drop a battle chip that's based off of a move that it does, and you're either going to do some type of direct attack, some fancy attack, a defensive ability by going invisible, or putting up a shield, healing yourself, all these different things that these battle chips do. And what makes this game fun is the way that you have to use the battle chips and how they interact with each other, because you're going to be able to create these crazy combos by the end of the game, but you have to be able to work your folders in a way in order to be able to pull the right chips. All battle chips have a letter associated with them from A to Z, and there are battle chips with stars on them that count as wild. When you're creating your folder, which you can put 30 battle chips in, you have to keep in mind what letters are going into these folders, because once you go into a battle, you are drawing 5 random battle chips. An easy way to think of this is, think of battle chips as playing cards, and you're making a deck of 30 cards. You're shuffling them up, and then in the beginning, you're drawing 5 cards. When you play a chip, or a card if you want to call it that way, but they're battle chips, you can play any chip you want from your hand, but in order to play a second chip, it either has to match the letter or match the type of chip that you played. So a cannon can play with a cannon, a high cannon, but a cannon cannot play with a high cannon unless they share the same letter. Now that's not going to happen with those unless you have one with a star, which counts as a wild, which could be any letter at all. So eventually, as you continue to go through the game, you're going to find what chips work for you, what your style is, and you're going to build a folder around it. I have made some amazing decks in my time, and they're all still up here. I still remember a lot of them in terms of like how their power is and how fast I can use them in order to delete a Navi and things along that ways. And it makes me really excited to jump back into the Legacy collection in order to relive these feelings. And maybe as an adult, I'm going to be putting things together differently. What's really cool about like YouTube, for example, and I did mention before that I have the Battle Network 2 gameplay, which you're seeing down here, and then I also did Battle Network 1, is it's fun going back and just me personally rewatching it to see how those folders turned out, and then when I make the new folders now, how different they're going to be. Battle chips are absolutely amazing. I love just the whole concept behind them, and I'm glad that they are a main staple for the Battle Network series, and it's just something that you will find in every game. Number 3, Battle Network 2 is a single game, the last one before the version split. Going back to Pokemon, of course, when it first came out, you had Red and Blue, or Red and Green in Japan, and then every generation of Pokemon that came out afterwards was always 2 different versions, with the third one that came in later, and the whole concept is you would buy the version you would want for yourself, you would play it, but then you would need to find somebody with the opposite version in order to be able to collect all the different Pokemon and things like that from there. You could also buy both games at the same time and just do it yourself, or you would have both of them and you could play both games and see what the differences are, which is really what the main shtick was for Nintendo. I could see somebody being like, you know, a single game, it sells great, but why don't we just take a little pieces from here and a little pieces from here and put them in their own game, and now people have to buy both of them in order to get everything. And we do it. As consumers, we do it. And the Battle Network series and Capcom saw this, so as of Battle Network 3 and beyond, everything was broken into 2 versions. So even though with Battle Network 2, there was only 1 version of it and everything was within the cartridge itself, you could just go into it and you should be able to get the vast majority of the battle chips for your library by yourself in your thing, in your own game in a sense, you still needed to connect your Game Boy Advance with a friend and net battle them in order to get a few rare chips as well. So there was still a player-to-player interaction with Battle Network 2 that just got more and more as the series went on with all the different versions and, you know, unlocking rare chips depending on what versions you have and things along that ways. But that's kind of the main core with Battle Network. And I think it even had it with Battle Network 1, where that was the same thing. You need to battle friends in order to get stuff, which is just another reason why I'm very excited for a Legacy Collection, because you have online capability for the game, so I can go online with any one of the games and net battle people across the world instead of having to rely on if my friends have the game or not. Now, yes, I had a lot of friends that had this game growing up. We were all very big into it, and every time a new game came out, we would talk to each other. What version are you getting? Are you getting this one? All right, I'm getting this one, so we're getting this one. So we always had our bases covered, but at least with Battle Network 2, when we were first starting out, we didn't have to worry about that because everybody could just buy Battle Network 2, do what we had to do, and then we would play each other in order to try to get those rare chips for the library and to kind of test each other's folders out and see who did better and whatnot. And let me tell you, you get to a point where a folder where you're smashing A at the beginning of a round, and whatever controller the game registers A first, that is your winner. Man, some of those folders went crazy, but I'm at least glad that Battle Network 2 was able to be a singular version where you'd be able to go in and just do what you got to do, play the game as it was meant to be. You're not missing out on anything. You're not losing out on anything. Whereas in the later versions, you may like certain things about each one of the games, but you're never going to be able to mix and match them. Number 4, speaking of power, CHNG.BAT is a great upgrade system for Megaman, and it's awesome to see it evolve from game to game. So if you're familiar with the later versions of the Battle Network series, you're probably more attuned to like the Soul Cross, the Double Cross, Soul Unison, things along that ways. Basically where Mega Man absorbs the data, I guess you can say, of a NetNavi and changes his look and his powers in order to represent them. So like this first came out in Battle Network 4, he would absorb Fireman, so he would look like Fireman and gave fire powers. He would absorb Gutsman, he would look like Gutsman and gain Guts powers. This is more attuned to the variable weapon system that most classic Mega Man fans were used to, where he actually fights a Navi, well, attunes with them in a sense, and gets their abilities. And this has changed quite a bit as you went from 4 to 5 to 6, but the same concept was still there. In Battle Network 2 and 3, this was the style change system. This enabled Mega Man to not only change his color and thus gain a different elemental attribute, but his powers and abilities actually evolved and changed based on how you played the game. This is the ultimate in your own personal journey, because depending on what you did and how you controlled Mega Man would determine what style you would get the next time the game gave you a style change. There was only 4 elements in the earlier games: heat, elec, wood, and aqua, which you can probably guess what those all represent. And it was this big rock, paper, scissors type of circular thing where one beat other, but was weak against the previous one. And in Battle Network 2 and 3, whenever you went to a style change, you got a random one of those 4. What wasn't predetermined was the other type that you were going to get, which was Guts, Custom, Brother, or Shield. Gut style was your offensive style, giving you a more powerful buster, it doubled its power, and a super armor in which you didn't flinch at all. The shield style was your defensive style, putting up a barrier around you, enabling you to also put up a shield anytime you want, rather than using the battle chip to do it. Team style put more navis into your folder. Normally you're only allowed 5, I believe, and this gave you an additional 2 or 3 more, thus giving you a better chance of pulling them, and those navis, which are your summons, are super powerful. And custom just made you pull more chips. You had, instead of 5, you were pulling 8 out of a 30 chip deck of sorts, so you're able to pull things faster. And all of these kind of wrap together, which how you played the game. If you used your buster a lot, you're going to get gut style. If you kept using summons, you're going to get team style. And it was a cool way that the game was able to track this throughout the course of the game without you really even knowing. It was very simple and elegant in Battle Network 2. Now granted, Battle Network 3 added a little bit more to it with the Navi customization program, and they didn't do nearly as much in Battle Network 2 as compared to 3, but it was still a really cool thing to have and something that you wanted to use throughout the course of the game, and you were always excited to get that next style. And then of course in Battle Network 2 you got hub style, which is basically all the best things from all the styles like slapped together, and then half health. But at that point, you really didn't need your health. You were probably at 1,000 HP anyway, which is the max, and you had so much in your folder that it didn't really matter at all if you had your health cut in half or not. So the style change system, CHNG.BAT from Battle Network 2, was a great point where you get to see how Mega Man's coding could be changed and upgraded, and just where that evolved as the series went on. Number 5, you had some great and some utterly terrible Robot Master redesigns. A big staple in the Battle Network series is taking all of your original Robot Masters that you found in the classic series and kind of revamping them to this like universe of sorts. So you're still gonna find Airman, you're still gonna find Quickman, you're still gonna find, I mean, they came in later games, but Metal Man, Flashman. Unfortunately, Crashman was never reused in this, but you had a lot of those classic characters that came back and were redesigned and reformatted to make it fit within the Battle Network universe. And I'm gonna tell you, there was a whole lot of hits to this and a bunch of misses. So there's actually kind of a scale that goes along with this. You have either the ones that were designed to be really awesome, like Shadow Man. Shadow Man's redesign for Battle Network series, which you saw him in Battle Network 1, and he came back in almost all of them, was fantastic. He's a ninja. He looked like a ninja. He acted like a ninja. His abilities were ninja-like, throwing shurikens and everything like that. I like his Battle Network form better than his original form, but even though his original form is really cool, I like the way that they made him look in Battle Network series, but he still looks like Shadow Man. Most Navis in the game look very similar to their counterparts. You don't really have too many that go off the beaten trail, and if they do, there's usually a reason behind it, whether it be good or bad. Bad-wise, we're looking at Snake Man. Snake Man's redesign in Battle Network 2 was awful. It was atrocious. It was ridiculous the way that they made this guy look. I don't know where they were going with this at all, but you know, this was not the Snake Man that I remember from Battle Network, from Mega Man 3. He did appear in Battle Network 2, which is really interesting that they did that, because it's like, you would think that Battle Network 2 would focus on the Mega Man, original Mega Man 2, like Robot Masters, but Metal Man wasn't in it, and Flashman wasn't in it, and Crashman just was never in any of the Battle Network series. You don't see those until later versions, but instead, you know, you'll get, you know, Airman is there, Quickman is there, which is great, but then Cutman comes in, I believe Nightman comes in later, Shadow Man, as I mentioned, Napalm Man is in it, and then a few other original Navis as well. Sometimes they were good, sometimes they were bad, sometimes they fell in between, but no matter what it was still really cool being able to see all of these characters that I remembered playing against growing up in the classic series re-show up later on and just have a brand new version of them, a new way to look at them, a new interpretation of them, and of course seeing all of the human characters and how they control them. It was really cool, and is definitely something that makes the Battle Network series a standout series in the Mega Man saga. And there you have it. Those are my reasons why I absolutely love Battle Network 2. There are many more reasons in my head about why I love that game. But I also talked about, you know, the entire series as a whole here and there, and just my love for Battle Network, you know, just from beginning to end. But Battle Network 2 itself was a special one because, again, that was the point where I started it all, where I got introduced to CHNG.BAT, all the redesigned net navis, the battle chips, and how to make the folder, things along that ways, and what made me fall in love with the series right from the get-go. So now I want to hear from you. What do you think of Mega Man Battle Network? Have you played any or all of them when they first came out? Are you looking to pick up the Legacy Collection? Are you going to net battle me? Are you ready to lose to my ultimate net battling power? It's really not going to happen because I'm not that great at it. But hey, you never know. There's some pretty crazy stuff that I've seen out there already, and I can't wait to jump into it. So let me know what you like about the series. What are some of your likes and dislikes as well? Is there any navis that you saw that had the redesign from the original that just make absolutely no sense to you about why they look the way they do? I still have a lot more on my list for later games, but you know, it is what it is. And then what do you think of the characters themselves? Do you like Mega Man the way he is? Do you like the Mega Man and Land connection? All the story bits and everything? Just, I want to hear from you guys about what you think of Mega Man Battle Network as a whole, or specifically Mega Man Battle Network 2. Either way, I want to hear from you. Guys, you've been absolutely amazing. Thank you again so much for checking out this video. Remember to always take care of yourselves and each other. We are family forever, gaming together, or in this case, net battling together, because if it's one thing I've learned about the Battle Network series throughout my entire run through it, it's that no matter where we are or what we're doing, we are always connected through the power of the net, which is what we're watching this on right now. You guys have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one.